Okay, so I just want to introduce you to the Venture Creation Cafe. This is the first one of the first sessions we've run here. We've run a few test sessions, and you can see we're still working out some of the bugs. But um, I'm excited to have you all here just because the Venture Creation Cafe is really a new concept and it's a new idea. And how do you provide a different kind of education, a kind of engaged education, one that enables us to work with people who are masters in the field and to really engage in mentorship and in practice of things. One of the frustrations that I personally have with universities is that universities tend to be focused on knowledge, on theory alone, and theory is useless without practice. So in my opinion, and what the university has helped us to start to establish here, is what I've defined as the Venture Creation Cafe. It's the beginning of some entrepreneurship programs that we're changing here at the university. We've done some other things at the International Business School with called a Venture Creation Laboratory, where we do venture creation with MBA students. But we're opening now this to the public, and this is a new kind of cafe where we're going to be bringing mentors from around the world to engage in these kinds of conversations. So we're going to do that, and we're going to demonstrate this for you today. I'd like to introduce you to Dennis Rivers. Dennis Rivers is an extraordinary entrepreneur who has been in the social entrepreneurship space for many, many years. He established his studies were in the area of cooperative communications. And Dennis, I'll just do the introduction, and you can correct me with anything here. But Dennis has written a book as a result of his studies. He studied with some of the great innovators in this whole field of cooperative communication, and he wrote a book called The 7 Challenges, and he put it out on the internet as a free PDF download for anyone to download. And this has been on the web for quite a few years now. This is long when the web was quite new, but he's had now millions of downloads of this cooperative communication program in 130 different countries in multiple languages, been translated into multiple languages. So he's really had a real impact on how do human beings communicate better. And this is very foundational stuff. Dennis, without further ado, I'll introduce you because I want to just say that we're inviting Dennis to come here because entrepreneurship is really about communication. It's about how do you communicate your vision? How do you talk with your team? How do you understand and communicate with your customers what they really need? What problems can you really solve for them? And so this is kind of foundational to entrepreneurship, but it's really foundational to any human behavior. I mean, whether you're trying to get along in your family, these are valuable skills. So without further ado, I'd like to just introduce Dennis Rivers. We'll try to get you on a fuller screen here. Dennis, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us where you're coming to us from?
I'm coming from my office, which is about 20 miles north of San Francisco, California. So I'm really thrilled to be joining you today, and I hope I can live up to every wonderful thing that Dan Kimball has just said about me. So
thank you for coming, Dennis. I just want to let everyone know that Dennis is much better able to hear us in the room if we use this mic. So I'm just going to pass this mic around. And Dennis, you want to just go through with the introductions first, or what would you like to do?
Well, I would really, because this is a kind of, these sessions are drop-in sessions, we have people coming each day that haven't been here before. So each day I'm going to kind of give an overview of the 7 challenges, and we're going to focus on one or another of them. So I have my notebook paper here, and I want to write down your names so I know who is in the room today and whom I have the honor of coaching. To be a coach, it's like being a sports coach. You're helping somebody throw the ball. It's a great honor to have you come and share with me about communicating better. And I also hope to learn from you, learn from your concerns, and learn what works well in your culture. So over this session and over the coming sessions that are going to unfold over several months, So I would like this to be a dialogue as well as partly a monologue. So please pick up the microphone if you would and tell me your first name.
Okay, I'm going to switch the cameras here now. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kamarul Zaman.
Kamaru,
Yes.
thank you. And what is your top interest in communication skills?
My top about communication skills. I love to talk to my team, to give motivation to my team. That's why I'm still learning how to be a good communicator with them.
So am I, still learning. All right, so please pass the microphone on Kamaru. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Mashita.
Mashita?
Yes.
And Mashita, what area of interest is bringing you to learn new communication skills?
Actually, I would like to learn everything.
Me too.
Because I'm quite, I don't really know how to communicate with people. I'm introvert.
Introvert. Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll explore some things about that. Thank you very much. And will you pass the microphone to the people behind you?
Hello.
Yes.
My name is B.
B?
Yeah.
And B, what is especially interesting to you about communication skills? How do you hope to use communication skills in your life or in your career?
Now, because I just started online business, so I would like to know the skill to communicate with the people from all around the world through internet or through other ways.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And please pass the microphone on to the person sitting next to you.
Hi, my name is Gina.
Hello, Gina.
Hi. Well, I actually came for an e-commerce workshop, but now we're talking about communication. But that's cool because actually I work as a part-time English teacher, and so I teach children. So I guess in terms of communication, it's just like how to communicate in a way that they would understand me better because they're bilingual. Like they try to learn English and Malay and I'm like thing. So I guess I want to like know how to communicate to them better in terms of like making them understand how to speak a different language, I guess.
Yes. Now I would say it turns out that in relation to children, you can't teach the 7 challenges conceptually to children because the 7 challenges involve too much self-observation and too much cognition. But if you practice the 7 challenges in front of the children will learn by imitating you. So it's we'll talk about some of that because there are ways that you can reach out to help the children around you learn to communicate better.
Okay.
Thank you for coming today, Gina.
Hi, my name is Jamshed.
Would you say that for me again, a little more slowly?
Jamshed, J-A-M.
J-A-M-S-E-H-E?
S-H-E-D.
S-H-E-D. Jamshed.
Jamshed, yeah.
Tell me about your interests, Jamshed.
Actually, I'm a research student and I'm doing PhD, but I'm doing research on entrepreneurial mentoring. So that's why I want to see how mentor actually. Well, my research is about the entrepreneurial mentoring. That what kind of mentors entrepreneurs are looking for, like their interests is like their age, experience. So what qualities they are looking in a mentor. So I'm actually observing that.
All right.
How the communication takes place, so that how can maybe I can get some data for my research.
Yes, so you're a participant observer. You are both, well, it turns out that part of better communicating is that you become a participant observer in all of your communication, that you both are in the communication, you're completely participating, but there's a part of you that floats over your communication like an angel on the ceiling, who's seeing the whole situation and what's the best thing for me to do next. So I'm thrilled to have you here, Jamshed. Thank you for sharing, and will you pass the mic along? And Dan, I need you to move the camera a little so I can greet these new people. Hello there.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey.
Hi, Jeffrey. And Jeffrey, share with us, please, your special interest in communication skills.
Well, I like to be able to communicate clearly to my team and to anybody that I'm speaking with, so that I don't have to repeat myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sometimes if your message is confusing, no matter how many times you repeat the message, the people still won't get it. So learning how to clarify your message can be much more satisfying. I'm very interested in the idea of efficiency and effectiveness, so I hope we can explore that in these sessions. Thank you very much, Jeffrey, and will you pass the mic to the other person?
Hi, Dennis.
Hello there.
Hi, my name is Jerry.
Hello,
I'm an
Jerry.
entrepreneur, so I guess what I'm interested in communication is the valuable skill of networking.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm also like Mashita, introvert.
So you want to be able to reach out to your colleagues and form alliances and interact with your customers better. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
More like potential business partners, other entrepreneurs, other business owners in a social activity, social event, like a networking mix.
Now, I want to take a little time out. I just did something, and I want you to all see what I did. Jerry expressed herself to me, and I tried to give back a little summary of what Jerry had said. But you know, I hadn't quite understood Jerry correctly, and so she corrected me. So that is part of the advantage of giving little summaries as you listen, is that it lets the other person know how closely you have understood, or maybe you haven't understood them quite so well. So in our section about listening, which we're not going to cover today, but we do cover in other classes, we'll talk about the value of making very brief summaries of what you're listening to. So Jerry, thank you very much for allowing me to use our little interaction right now as part of the exercise.
Sure, I'm on it. Thank you, Dennis.
Hi, my name is James Law.
Hello there, James.
I just here to learn about simple communication, because I thought I have a big idea, but I have to learn keep it simple language to talk to stakeholders. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for being here, James. And do we have anybody else in the circle, or is that everybody? Has everybody checked in for the day? Oh, I think I know this person. Well, introduce yourself to the other people in the room, please.
Okay, well, I've already introduced myself. We just had a session on e-commerce for entrepreneurs. I'm getting started using an online platform for selling. So I've already introduced myself. So what question do you have for me? I was trying to hide from you today. I thought I won't get involved. But okay.
All right. Well, Abdul, because Abdul is a trainer, I often rope him into doing exercises with me online. So I appreciate your continuing to show up, Abdul, and helping me out when I need a partner to do online exercise.
Yeah, no
so thank you very much. All right. And Dan, Dan Kimball, would you like to introduce yourself to this group and explain your interest in communicating better?
Yeah, well, I think I've kind of already done that pretty much. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've been most of my adult life spent in California on educational technology. So I've invented and developed the technology, and established companies around how to build the technology and sell it to big customers, and basically have done a lot of work in the education technology space. And this is really the next step in that. Educational technology is really about education. It's not about technology. So I'm wanting to try to establish better ways of using the technology that we have available for us for educating people. And with the advent of something new in the world of education called MOOCs. Have you ever heard of MOOCs? Who's heard of MOOCs? M-O-O-C? It stands for Massive Online Open Course. And massive online open courses are now kind of the rage in higher education, and it's changing the very nature of education in the world. Stanford and Berkeley teamed up to create a new company, actually. Udacity, that's that company. And Stanford and MIT and Harvard teamed up to form another company and spun off another company that could produce these courses and deliver them to the world. Well, the first one that Stanford ran was a course on artificial intelligence, and they're eminently qualified to teach it. Well, they had 160,000 students sign up for that one course in the first time. So these are massive courses, extraordinary education. The content of the knowledge is available anywhere, and it's for free. So that's changing the very nature of education, but we still have something that universities need to do. Universities need to engage people in practice of the knowledge, not just getting the knowledge. Getting the knowledge is free now. We can go onto YouTube and we can download and get all this information. So as Dennis has done here, Dennis has practiced before the age of the MOOC. Dennis produced this PDF file, which has now been downloaded multiple millions of times. But Dennis, can you imagine having a working session with a few million people who have worked with your document?
Well, I think that MOOC is one end of the spectrum, but what we're doing right now might also be part of the wave of the future, which is kind of network-mediated small group encounters where because people learn a lot from one another. If we do the exercises, you're going to learn as much from your exercise partners as you are from me. So I think that there may be dozens of ways that the technology will facilitate new constellations of cooperation. So now I want to kind of take the baton back from Dan. Thank you very much, Dan, and continue. So one of the ways that technology is changing things is it used to be that when you went to a lecture, you had to write it down or it was gone forever. That is, the words coming out of the lecturer's mouth were the only way you were going to get that information. Since I'm not a good note taker, I was never happy with that as a way of organizing things. So I want to tell you today, the 7 Challenges Workbook is on the web at newconversations.net. So you can go on newconversations.net and you can even read the chapter that I'm talking about, although I would actually prefer that you listen to me today. But here's what I mean. The anxiety about note-taking is gone. The reference material is there for you. It's available 24 hours a day. So that means that we can focus on practicing. We can focus on exploring. In the old days, I had to get through the entire lecture or you were not going to get the information. That has changed so that the role in universities, there's a revolution going on, and it's a transition from lecturer to mentor. Because all the information is available to you all the time, you don't need me to read you my chapters. What you need is you need me as a coach and a learning companion so you can try new skills and bring up things that work or things that don't work. I think that is a profound revolution in education, the shift from the lecturer to the mentor, because people have been lecturing it, since the ancient Greeks. So we're talking about 2,500 years of tradition, and now we're starting to do something new. There have always been mentors along the way, but now the mentors who were kind of in the background, now the mentors are in the foreground and are full partners. All right, so today you've come into the middle of a series on the 7 Challenges workbook. So we're right now, we're on challenge 4, but because the workbook's available 24 hours a day, you don't have to worry. You can go back and you can read the other chapters, and you can also join our future courses. This, the 7 challenges are arranged in the approximate order that you would use them. It's like listening first, that's challenge number 1. Declaring your conversational intent and inviting the consent of the other person. The more important the conversation you want to have with somebody, the more you need to let them know what's up. Like if I want to say hello to you, Abdul, I don't need to ask permission to say hello, because hello doesn't demand anything from you. But if I want to work on a budget for an hour with you, then I need to say, Abdul or Jamshid, I need to work with you for an hour. When can we work it out? I call that declaring your intent and inviting consent. It really improves the cooperation that you are going to get from the other person. Number 3, expressing yourself more clearly and completely. And we go over the 5 fundamental pieces of information that you need to give people in order to help them reconstruct what's really going on. Now, let me think of an example very quickly. Well, when I saw the dishes in the sink, that's I. When I saw the dishes in the sink, I got kind of nervous. That's heart. I got kind of nervous because I was concerned that I wasn't going to get dinner ready by the time our guests arrive. That's head. That's interpretation. So right now, I want you to wash the dishes so that I can chop the vegetables. That's what I want, and the good thing that happens later. So the way I would say this, well, wait a minute. Can I talk with you for a minute? When I see those dishes in the sink, I'm feeling kind of nervous because I don't know how I'm going to get dinner ready by the time our friends are coming over. It would be so helpful to me if you would wash the dishes. I will chop the vegetables. See, that's 5 pieces of information. What I saw, the feelings I had about it, the interpretations that I was making that were linked with those feelings, what I want to ask, I'm thinking that's the open hand, what I want to ask, and then the pointing hand, so that good thing will happen. Well, when everything is going fine, it doesn't feel like you need to fill in the details. But when things start to fall apart, when you have conflicts with people, that's when people really need to know the whole story of what's going on. And also, in order to keep the conflict from becoming just a contest of people calling each other's name. Well, you're incompetent. Well, you don't pay enough attention. That people can just trade insults. But trading insults or criticisms doesn't solve the problem. In order to solve the problem, you need to make a request and point out the good thing that's going to happen. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4 is what we're going to work on today, and that's translating complaints into requests. So I'm not going to say too much about that because we're going to cover the rest of our hour exploring that. Then after that, number 5, challenge number 5 is asking questions more creatively and more open-endedly. it turns out that asking questions is an art. And we often ask questions that are not fruitful. You know, for example, if you're working on a piece of equipment and the piece of equipment breaks down, I could come up to you and I could say, how could you be so stupid to run this machine so that it broke down? Now that's a question, but it's a fruitless question. I could come up to you and say, how are we going to work together to make sure this doesn't happen again? Now, the fruitless questions often point to an explanation of the past, but the fruitful questions point to a plan for the future. And most of us haven't thought about, even though you have a philosophy of question asking, you're probably not aware that you actually go through the day asking a particular style of question. So we're going to bring that out of the realm of kind of habitual and not aware. We're going to bring that out into the sunlight so that we can cultivate a more creative way of asking questions, and also do that in a way that's respectful. That's number 5. Number 6 is expressing more appreciation. Now, it turns out in business environments, expressing appreciation is fantastically important for keeping your team together. There's a wonderful business book on this called Bringing Out the Best in People by Aubrey, I've forgotten his last name. Anyway, he points out a very interesting dynamic. Most of the people, let's say you're running a business. Most of the people show up, most of your employees show up on time, they work hard. You don't pay much attention to them. But a few people come late and they misbehave or they don't get their work done. They get all the attention. You're after them, demerits. Or if you don't get to work on time, you're going to lose threats, demerits, attention. So the people who are misbehaving tend to get lots more attention. And the people who are performing well in traditional environments, they don't get very much attention. Well, what happens is those people who perform well, they eventually leave your company and they go look for a job where they're going to get more recognition for actually doing their work well. So if you operate on this management by exception, where you expect everybody to do the right thing and you spend all of your attention with the outliers, trying to push them back on the main path, you'll eventually be left with an entire staff of problem people. All the good people will have left. So this is pointed out in this book, Bringing Out the Best in People. So expressing appreciation winds up being a really important thing to do. It's an important thing to do at work. It's an important thing to do in your family. It's an important thing to do with your kids. So it's a universal human skill. But because we have to use our brains in order to pay attention to things that are going wrong, we can become kind of stuck being problem seers. We see the problems and we solve the problems. That's good, but you can't do that 24 hours a day. We have to both put the problem glasses on and be a problem seer and a problem solver, but then we have to take those glasses off and we have to put on the glasses of appreciation and say, thank you to the universe for the sun coming up this morning, for the flowers that are blooming in my garden, for these wonderful creatures who are my children. What a miracle that these people have come to be my companions in life. For my spouse who's like helping me, my companion on the journey through life. It turns out in all of those relationships, appreciation makes a big difference, but it tends to get pushed into the back seat. So part of the 7 Challenges approach is to bring appreciation, you say, back into the front row as part of the agenda of life and the agenda of entrepreneuring. And finally, the last of the 7 challenges is to adopt the attitude of continuous learning, and that is that you see yourself as an evolving, learning person rather than seeing yourself as a fixed bundle of abilities. The best book on this is by a Stanford professor. Her name is Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, and she wrote a book about this called Mindset. If you think of yourself as having a fixed amount of talent, then the big question in your life is, are you a total success or are you a total failure? If you see yourself as having a fixed amount of talent, then anytime you make a mistake, you don't necessarily have that much to learn from the mistake. The mistake is a threat to your identity as a talented success. Now, if you see yourself as a learner, you have a completely different relationship to that mistake. That mistake is an opportunity to learn. So part of your task as a supervisor and a supervisor of other people and a companion of other entrepreneurs is to help both yourself and the people around you shift from the fixed talent point of view to the ongoing learning point of view. That's going to make you much more resilient. As soon as something goes wrong, bang, you're right there. How can we do this better? What can I learn from this? You know, help me understand. I hear that you disagree with me. Help me understand how it looks from your point of view. If you see yourself as a continuous learner, nothing can knock you off your feet. Whereas if you see yourself as a fixed but very talented success, it's like you're on a very, very high horse, and you can easily get knocked off of the high horse. And life is full of those examples. And actually, Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, is full of hilarious examples of sports figures and geniuses and people who just totally mess up their lives, and they're completely anxious. They're at the top of their game, but they're totally anxious because they don't understand themselves as learning. In entrepreneuring, you will often hear this phrase, fail early and fail often, because developing new products, developing new ideas, that depends on a lot of trial and error. So you have to try different things, and not every one of them is going to work. When you try something and it doesn't work, you're not a failure. You're successfully going through a trial and error process. I mean, my experience with computers, I've been working with computers since, well, I don't even want to, since the late 1950s. In my experience with the computers, nothing works the first time. It only works the 6th or 7th time. So if it's not working yet, it just means I've got to shuffle through, I've got to try it, all the different, and the pieces will eventually fit together. So that the 7th challenge is to really take the continuous learning point of view to heart and embody it as your philosophy of living. Now, I have discovered that, you know, talking for about 20 minutes is a appropriate sized chunk for talking to people, and now I want to pass the microphone around the room and hear from each of you. That was a lot of information, and I want to hear what thoughts and reflections did that stir up in you, that bit of information. And this is also a kind of communication, this is also a bit of communication advice. Never talk for an hour straight without giving the people a chance to say something. I think 20 minutes is about the longest that anybody can talk, because if I'm talking to you, I've stirred up a lot of responses in you. I think I've said a lot of interesting stuff. You're probably thinking, oh, that reminds me of this, that reminds me of that. If I go on and talk to you for another 40 minutes, all of those earlier responses, it's going to get harder and harder for you to listen, even if you agree with me, even if you're delighted by what I'm saying. So I'm going to stop now. Dan, please launch the microphone around the room, and let's hear from people. Well, we can start with you. What does this stir up in you, Dan? Now you've heard a summary of the 7 challenges. How do you feel about that? What possibilities does that bring up in your mind?
Well, yeah, I'm always very excited to hear you, Dennis, just because I'm constantly thinking of just like you said, I want to respond to certain things, but I'm learning to hold my responses back because sometimes impatience is something that can make me interrupt people. So I'm recognizing in my own nature how to do this better, and I think the most important thing that I'm getting from this, Dennis, although we've been friends for years and I've understood and worked on some of these things with you, I am recognizing that these are principles. These 7 principles are something that helps us rise above a conversation, recognize and kind of be this angel that you mentioned earlier. You know, recognizing that you're part of the conversation, but you need to be engaged in the conversation at 2 levels: a meta level where you're recognizing what's going on, and then the level where you're trying to communicate something.
The guiding angel, yes.
Yeah, so if we can, I think that's like one first principle, that if we understand that these are meta principles, we can begin to utilize them better in our daily lives. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I said a lot, so what I want each of you to say is just 1 or 2 sentences, and this is, you know, part of the exercise, you know, to get in touch with what's inside of you and give a comment or 2. So you can't possibly say anything wrong. It's not an exam. It's a conversation.
Hi, Dennis. What I understood from your 7 ways of communication is that these are based on your experience. These are not like hardcore rules which people teach in the universities, are not like academic rules. These are based on your experience. So do you think these rules may vary from country to country, where the cultural difference? Because what I see in Europe or US, people are kind of very friendly. Like even the teacher, you can call them by name. But here, the teacher we call sir or prof. So the communication rules here are different, not like the US and Europe. So do you think these 7 rules of communication, they will apply here? We will be able to apply exactly, or maybe? But do you think they will differ, or we can maybe there are different rules for different countries or different culture, maybe vary from country to country?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I'm so glad you asked that question. The 7 challenges were the result of my MA study, so they kind of represent a consensus of the communication studies world. However, I think, so I would answer your question in 2 ways. I would say these are exactly the principles, and each culture is going to follow them in different ways. So both things are going to be true. It's sort of like, for example, even here in the United States, there are some in the Native American cultures in the United States, it's rude to ask questions. So you are supposed to wait until the other person will tell you what you need to know when they're ready to tell you what you need to know. Now, it's really hard. It might be kind of hard to get things done if you are, if you follow that in a strict way. On the other hand, if you were a Native American and you were adopting the 7 challenges, you might change that challenge about asking questions, and before you asked a question, you would ask permission to ask a question. So I think I encourage each of you to take this apart and see how you would put the underlying principles together in a pattern that would feel graceful in your culture. So I support you there 100%. Thank you so much for your response. So pass the mic on then. Let's hear from some other people in the room.
There's one of the stuff that you mentioned from the list that was expressing more appreciation.
Yes.
Agree with that based on experiences. Because when I taught the children English, even though they didn't quite get the sentences, like grammatically it wasn't correct, but like the fact that they put in effort and everything, and I kind of said, "Oh, good job," or I expressed really good appreciation. They just they become more and more interested in the conversation, and they become more and more into it and stuff like that. Even though they know that they didn't quite get it correct, but they did bits of it, which was pretty like, okay, people understood what they're trying to say. So I guess that's one of the things that really, like, out of all the 7, I think that was something that really caught my attention, which I think would definitely make people communicate better. So yeah.
Thank you. So the microphone is waiting for the next person.
Hi there.
Yes.
Okay, I'm really thankful about the tips and also the advice that you gave us. Coincidentally, that beside me is my wife. All right, so you give us an advice to improve our daily communication. That's good, and thank you so much for that. Really helpful.
I'm honored to be your companion. All right, so is there anyone else in the room who would like to give a comment? I so appreciate being here, hearing back from you. It makes this more like a conversation. When I just lecture, I get really lonely. So it's not a happy experience for me if I'm just hearing the sound of my own voice. So that's about it for our commenters, or do we have someone else about ready to make a comment? All right, well, let's continue. Now, we're going to be working today on challenge number 4, which is to translate complaints into requests. There's some very interesting interactive psychology going on. The 7 challenges are not, the 7 challenges approach, if you study different communication mentoring approaches, you'll find that some of them are based on kind of teaching people quick techniques for doing things better. I don't belong to the quick technique school. I belong more to the watering the garden school. So in the watering the garden school, things have deep roots. And so if you want to, you can always get more fruit if you're willing to water the roots of the plant. So, for example, in relation to this translating complaints into requests, in the past 25 years, there have been many discoveries in brain science about behavioral mirroring. There are circuits in our brain that are specifically designed to mirror, to imitate what has happened right in front of us. And that is how babies learn language so fast. When we see someone throw a ball, we use the circuits in our brain, we reenact ball throwing in our brain, and the circuits in our motor neurons fire up. So if you watched someone throw a ball 1,000 times, your own throwing the ball would get better and better because you're actually using those circuits. Well, so mirror neurons, the discovery of mirror neurons, and if you Google mirror neurons, you'll find a lot of interesting information. Mirror neurons are a blessing and they're a curse. I've just told you the blessing part, which is, you know, that kids can learn faster. The curse part is that mirror neurons make conflicts self-perpetuating. I yell at you, you yell at me. Then I yell at you louder. And you, well, this, of course, this not so much in Malaysian society. But in the United States, people yell at each other a lot. We're not so polite. But especially if I make a criticism, the first impulse of your brain, regardless of what you hope to do, the first impulse of your brain is to make a criticism back. If I said, you didn't do that job very well, your first impulse is to say, you didn't look very well. Then I say, you should do better. And you say, you should look really better. You see, we're having a contest. It's like tennis. The ball is going back and forth. Our brains are on conflict autopilot. We are just imitating each other. So that's why translating complaints into requests is so important. If you were fixing a machine and there was something that you did that didn't meet my needs, then I could say something about, wow, I really need, Dan, I really need you to adjust the volume on the, I could say to Dan, you know, here's Dan's in charge of all the electronics. I'd say, Dan, this setup is no damn good. Oh, excuse me. Dan, this setup is no darn good. Okay, so that's just a straightforward criticism. I'm not saying what I want. I'm not even saying how I'm feeling. I'm just criticizing Dan's performance. Now, instead, I could say, Dan, I really need you to get a different microphone so that I can hear people better. There's two parts of that. It's the last two parts in the 5 messages. There's what I want, and there's the good thing that will happen. I want you to get a better microphone so that I can hear people better. By pointing to a positive outcome, I'm getting your brain ready to do something helpful. And you see, there's layers and layers and layers in this. So at the unconscious layer, if I say, Dan, this audio setup is lousy, at a deeper level, what Dan is hearing from me is, you're not a good person. You're not a good worker. Dan is translating a criticism. He's translating it into something very deep and personal. When I say, let's get some new microphones so I can hear people better, I'm visualizing Dan as a problem solver rather than a problem maker. And that shifting that perspective from problem solver to problem maker, I guarantee you, and this is probably, Jamshid, this is probably one of the things, or is now, Jamshid and Jeffrey, I'm not, I think I might have gotten the two of you mixed up. But anyway, this is probably universal. I imagine this works in maybe 90% of human cultures. If you, instead of looking at the past and criticizing the person, you look at the future and you identify the action and the benefit, the good things that's going to happen, you are helping the person. Maybe the person is secretly ashamed that they didn't do their work very well. So you don't want to keep people feeling ashamed. You want to convert the energy of feeling ashamed into productive energy of doing it right, of making repair. So now I am now going to ask you to take a piece of paper, and I want each of you to think about a complaint. It doesn't have to be the most serious complaint in the world, but just an everyday complaint. And we want to get into the learning zone. If if it, this is kind of like, we don't want it to be too cold. If it's too cold, it's no fun to eat. If it's too hot, it's no fun to eat. So we have to find training examples that are in the just right zone. So for this example, I want you to find a complaint. Say you went into the restaurant and the food arrived and it wasn't cooked or something like that. So it's not the biggest complaint in the world, but it's important to you because you want to have a nice meal. I want you to translate a complaint into a request. And then we're going to go around the circle and share this. And I also want each of you to realize that in your work as entrepreneurs, you're actually going to be teaching communication skills to your teammates and your colleagues. So you may as well get used to these exercises because in some ways you're going to be doing this kind of stuff with the other people. Maybe not as explicitly, but it's going to be part of your job is to coach your colleagues and the people on your team toward better performance. So take a complaint, write out the complaint first, and then translate it into a two-part request, that what I want and the good thing that will happen, what I want. As I gave you the example, Dan, could we get a new microphone for the class so that I can hear people better? And Dan, I appreciate you letting me use you as an example in this process. So Dan, will you pick up the microphone and can we do a little audio check to make sure that we're still connected?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you very well.
It's working fine. Our technology is getting better and better, and the mic works great.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Dennis, I think it might be good for us in the future to have a little graphic that we can bring up during these sessions when we're working that maybe identifies the assignment, and so that people who are listening can engage in it as well.
So I'll do some slides.
I think the slides are really already there. It's just a matter of pulling them up and having them available for as we go through the sessions, and that we can bring them up now because the people who are listening at home, and you should understand that this is a global event. Really, anyone in the world can tune in to this right now as it's going on, and they should know what the assignment is so that they can participate as well.
So Dan, could you flash on the screen the go to the newconversations.net website and scroll down the front page to challenge 4, and it'll show a little graphic.
so many windows now that are
New conversations.net. Yeah, scroll down to challenge 4.
going down.
There it is. There it is. So you want to zoom in on that graphic.
Doing a screen share, so I can't seem to zoom in on it right now.
Can you do a Control Plus on your on your browser, and that will might zoom in. Yeah, now pan over a little and scroll up a little, and then people should be able to see it. There we are. From to.
Communication skills challenge form translating your criticisms and complaints into requests for action and explaining the positive results of having your request granted. Do this for both your own complaints and the complaints that others bring to you. Focusing on the positive outcome shows respect to the recipient of a request as having a positive contribution to make and shifts the focus from past mistakes to present and future successes.
Thank you. I worked
really
hard
like
putting
Dennis.
that little graphic together.
Yeah, I really I like the notion here that it says do this both for your own complaints and the complaints that others bring to you. I think this is an important concept that communication is always a two-way street, and it's not just about translating your own complaints to a request. It's about translating the complaints that you receive maybe to requests so that you can better translate them for the person who's maybe not so skilled in communicating them as requests.
Yes. So we learn how to do it first ourselves, and then we'll get better at helping at translating the complaints that come to us.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of recognizing that others who may not have learned these skills, you have to be understanding that, if someone's complaining to you, that the real reason that they're doing that is because they want to have something change, and
they want something,
convert that into something that you need to do.
That we're all working toward success and fulfillment.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go back to the...
Thank you. All right, so I think we're ready to go around the room and hear some of these translations. Maybe we should go around in the other direction and start with Abdul. And will you each say your name so that I can remember your name each before you start? So Abdul, thanks again for participating in this. And so Dan, will you tilt the camera so I can see Abdul? All right, Abdul. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm not sure if this is correct, but again, your advice is welcome. Example I have is this is something that we experienced yesterday with the fumigation. So if you can complain at why you're fumigating in that particular time, maybe you would say it would be better if you could fumigate the grounds outside the office earlier in the morning or late at night to avoid annoying the workers in the area. There's a complaint about them fumigating and annoying people in the area, in the vicinity.
All right, let me try do a version of that, Abdul, just working with you. So you're talking about like somebody running a lawnmower or a leaf blower or something right outside the classroom where you're trying to teach?
That's right.
So you might go out to the person and you might say, oh, Mr. So-and-so, I'm Abdul. Mr. So-and-so, it would help me so much if you would do this before my class starts, because we're not able to hear each other. You see, that's So you're being very kind, but you're also telling the truth, but you're also pointing to a success, and you're engaging him as a person who can be helpful to your life.
Okay.
So you see that saying, it would help me so much. That's just being especially polite. Because there's nothing wrong with being polite. It's just that we also need to tell the truth. And telling the truth and being polite, if you work at it, you can gradually get those two things to go together. But it does take work. So, Abdul, how satisfied are you with my variation on your theme?
No, I agree with it. Thank you.
All right. So you want to pass the mic along to the next person? All right. Translating a complaint into a request. Kamaru, thank you so much for participating with us. The mic is off, so we need a sound check.
Hello, hi.
Now, that's good.
Okay, I had a driver. My driver is late this morning. So the way I asking him is, John, can you drive fast so that I can attend to my meeting on time? Is it true?
Yes. So, so I could say, John, it would help me so much to get to my meeting on time if you would drive faster. See, I'm being very polite, but also I'm saying both things, both the specific behavior I need and also that the help that it would be, the good thing that would happen.
All right, understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So will you pass the microphone, please?
Hi. Hi. This is when I'm talking to my 3-year-old son. He likes to cry and he refuses to communicate, to talk. If he wants something, he likes to throw a tantrum. Yeah, so I would say to him, I need you to speak your mind so that I can help you, not just cry and
Yes.
you know, throw a tantrum. Yeah.
And you see, you could say that with so much affection in your voice. You can say, honey, I need you to talk to me so I can take care of you. You see, so yes, that's translating that rather than just stop your crying or I don't understand what you want when you cry. You say, I don't understand what you want when you cry. Yes, sort of the complaint, but saying, I need you to talk to me so that I can help you, I can meet your needs, is a whole different way. And I swear, if you do this every day for a couple of years, your little 5-year-old will come to you and say, Mommy, it would help me so much if you would fix my lunch or something. Your children will adopt your communication patterns. Thank you so much for participating with us. So would you like to pass the microphone to the next person?
Okay. So I'm B.
All right, B.
I have an example here. Right. I have an example here. I have one partner who like to set appointment time like in the late afternoon, and we finish late and like around 5 to 6 in the afternoon. So the traffic is very heavy at the time. So I would like to make an appointment earlier. So can I say would you like to make the appointment time earlier so that we can finish early to avoid the traffic jam?
Yes. Yes, it would help me so much to get home at dinner time if we could meet at at 1 o'clock instead of at 4 o'clock. The more specific you make it, like if you say, it would help me so much to get home on time if we could meet at 1 o'clock, then you're being very, very specific about what would help you. All right, and Gina, you have the microphone.
Yeah, I guess my example of a complaint would be the temperature in this room is too cold.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of is. So I would probably say it, could somebody please, like, maybe turn up the temperature so that I can listen comfortably?
Yes, I could say that. I could
More
say,
specific.
gosh, everybody, it's so cold in this room. I'm shivering. If you would turn up the temperature, then I'd be able to pay attention better. Yes, you see, and then you're not criticizing us. You're just asking for help. So now let's go ahead and pass the mic on, and can we hear from anybody else?
I couldn't find a better example actually. But actually, I'm giving an example of when I was back home. So I used to work as an IT engineer. So when there
please
was
speak.
problem,
Excuse me. Please hold the microphone more close to your mouth.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fine now?
That's perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
So I can hear
used
you
to work
better.
as an IT engineer. Yeah. So I am giving example of like me being an IT engineer and giving some task to technician for being some fault in the computer. So because next day when I asked him about that whether he fixed it or not. So like I used to ask him. I didn't used to ask him like, okay, is this not working or why didn't you fix it? I knew that he didn't fix it, but I used to ask him like whether you fixed it or not. Like I haven't tested it yet. So whether it's good or I should be communicating like why you didn't fix it or if you fixed it or not. So I used to pretend like I didn't know that I tried. I already tested and I know it's not working. It's still not working. The equipment which I asked him to fix.
So in terms of making a request, you might say something like, I need you to coordinate with me more closely so that we can get these bugs out of the software. See, there's what you want. You want the problems to be solved, but there's something that has to happen in order to make it work better. So you could say something like, it would really help me if you would coordinate with me better each day and let me know how you're doing so that I can adjust my schedule and we can get this work done. See, there's a variety of creative ways that you can describe the situation. This is something I mentioned yesterday. In any given situation, there's 100 ways that you could describe it. But not all of those 100, they may all be true, but they're not all equally fruitful. So out of those 100 ways of describing, there's 3 or 4 that are really creative, that lead forward. And those are the 3 or 4, not just one. But this is a variety of ways of saying this. But if you start out the sentence with, it would really help me, if we could, then what's the specific, It would really help me if you could post your progress on this online spreadsheet so that I can see where you are in the course of the day, and then I'll be able to adjust my schedule and pay attention to the things that need work. Or it would really help me if you get stuck. It would really help me for you to come and ask for my help. Kind of like, don't wait. If you get stuck, don't be embarrassed. If you get stuck and you can't solve a problem, come and see me right away, and we'll brainstorm the next step. You see that? Come and see me right away so that we can brainstorm the next step. There's what you want and the good thing that will happen. So the way to get good at this is actually to write 100 of these. Here's what I want, and this is the good thing that comes from it. And the more of them you do, the more creative you will get doing it, because there's a big element of creativity in these kinds of overtures.
Again, my next question is again kind of related to the previous question. That do you think it also vary from employee to like maybe like person to person? Like if I'm talking to some person and he know that I'm very soft, like my subordinate or anyone.
I need you to hold the microphone near to your mouth so I can hear you better.
Yeah. So do you think it vary from person to person? Like if some person might think that I'm too soft, I'm very polite, so he might become very lazy. I might take it for granted. So do you think that it also, I mean, maybe vary from employee to employee, or vary from person to person? The kind of language you use, yeah.
Well, that's a possibility, but that is why what you can make up. You see, often we push people hard, but we're not very specific. So it turns out it's kind of like the drill bit. You want to make the drill bit smaller and smaller, but you want it to drill just in the right place where you need the results. So if you say, you know, it would really help me if you would put your results on spreadsheet number 3 where I can see them during the day. By being so specific, you're concentrating all your effort on that one specific thing rather than just saying, well, it would really help me if you would do a better job of solving these problems. That's not gonna do anything, you know, because it's too vague. So I think what I would suggest that you do is I would suggest that you exert not so much force, but that you become much more specific. And that being much more specific, you don't have to exert so much force trying to move the other person, because it's much clearer what you want. Anyway, it's worth an experiment.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. I would like to ask if we could maybe begin to summarize this session and prepare for what we need to present tomorrow, so that we can have a good session tomorrow, with the idea that we'll have people better prepared who are going to attend.
Yes. Well, I so appreciate exploring these ideas with you today. There's plenty of room for cultural variation. So the cultural adaptability issue is not a binary issue of yes, it fits this culture, or no, it doesn't fit this culture. It's much more a spectrum, a creative spectrum of how would we reorganize this so that it sounded, how would we follow the principle that you want to be specific about what you want to share the good results that would happen, and how would we organize that so that it makes sense in a particular language or a particular culture. Now tomorrow we're going to be working on the appreciation chapter, and the appreciation chapter is a really favorite one. I like all of it. I like all of these. Oh, excuse me. Let me just get back to my schedule here. Yes. It's actually, appreciation is 6. Tomorrow we're going to be working on asking questions more open-endedly and more creatively. Many times we ask yes-no questions, and yes-no questions shut people up rather than open people up. For example, I could ask you, oh, you saw that movie last night. Did you like it? Well, when I say, did you like it, all I'm asking you for is a yes or a no. I mean, thinking about the computer world, that's a binary, a 1 or a 0. That's the least amount of information in the entire universe. So if we want to really find out more about what's going on inside of people, we can learn to ask open-ended questions where we say, oh, you saw that movie last night. How did you like it? What was interesting to you in that movie? We'll just learn so much more. And lots of times we're asking the questions because we need the information, but we're not asking the questions in a way that's actually going to get the information for us. So I invite you to read that chapter in the 7 Challenges Workbook online, and then come tomorrow ready to do some exercises about asking questions more creatively and more exploratorily. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. I'm going to try to scroll back to the screen share here now. We're going to be working on this communication skills challenge number 5, asking questions more open-endedly and more creatively. And you can find this on the
newconversations.net. That's plural, new conversations with an S on the end of it, .net.
Yeah.
And it's right on the front. It's right on the front page. Can't miss it. The 7 challenges.
So you can scroll down and see all of the 7 challenges here, and each of them can be downloaded as a PDF file. You can download them, look at the web page of them, or download them as a PDF file. But also, you can download the entire document, I think, right here in the PDF format, in the up at the very top, which downloads the entire document, which is some 50 or more pages, I think, Dennis.
It's 100 pages long.
100 pages. Okay, so thank you, Dennis. I really appreciate your time again today. I look forward to see if I can.
Yes. So Dan, do you want to have a follow-up with me in about 10 minutes?
Yeah, let's do that.
Good. All right.
Thanks again, Dennis.
Thank you very much, everyone. May you communicate wonderfully.
Thank you for your time, Dennis. Let's talk to you soon.